Foodie Italian Cooking in association with Simply Good Food TV, where today we're going to make a simple red sauce. Now before we get started, click the subscribe button in YouTube and download that Simply Good Food TV app. The simple red sauce is something that I recorded in one of my very early episodes. Of course, I've changed the way that I record things, the format that I've changed it. I think I've improved things a little bit, so it is an episode that I'm redoing. But another reason I'm making it is this time I'm making a really big batch of the simple red sauce. For one, because I want to freeze some of it to use in dishes that we make through the week. But also, you're going to see me use this simple red sauce in a future episode where I'm going to make No Noodle Lasagna. Many folks will just go to the store, they're going to buy a pasta sauce just because they think it's real hard to make pasta sauce. But you're going to see in this episode that nothing could be more further from the truth. The sauce I make is incredibly easy and incredibly full of flavor. It's something that you're going to love, something you should try. Never, never, ever buy another bottle of pasta sauce from the store. So with that, let's get started and take a look at our ingredients. So let's take a look at the ingredients real quick for our simple red sauce. I'm making a large batch today so I can freeze some. This is a 90-ounce can of San Marzano tomatoes, which is equivalent to a little bit over 3 standard cans of San Marzano tomatoes. I have 1 teaspoon of crushed red pepper. We don't like a real spicy sauce in this house. The red pepper is intended for my dish to kind of round out the flavor. If you like that spicy kick, add some more. I have 2 teaspoons of dried basil. I just happen to have dried basil in my cabinet. I didn't have any fresh basil, so we're going to go with 2 teaspoons. If you're going to go with fresh basil, use a little bit more. You know, dried basil has a little bit more of an intense flavor. I have 2½ shallots. I'm going to cut these finely. I'm going to use about 5 cloves of garlic, finely minced. And I have about 2 to 3 tablespoons of olive oil. So let me rearrange a few things here and then we'll get started on our prep. Let's prep the ingredients for our simple red sauce. First thing, I have 5 or 6 cloves of garlic here. For my garlic, I always just like to give it a good smash to help me get the skins off. And it also kind of releases some of the oil. I'm going to go ahead off camera and get these minced up and ready to go. For our shallots, same thing. We want a nice semi-fine mince. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get the skins off these onions, get them minced up so we can start cooking. So while my lovely assistant is prepping the shallots and the garlic for me, let's talk about our tomatoes. Again, I like to use San Marzano tomatoes in most of my dishes. For one, it's really convenient. You can buy San Marzano tomatoes, the whole tomatoes, and then if you need a crushed tomato, you can crush them by hand. If you need whole tomatoes, you have them. If you need to make a sauce like we're making tonight in a simple red sauce, we can just puree them in our food processor. So to avoid making a huge mess, I'm just going to ladle over probably, about 1/3 of this can at a time into my food processor. When you see the nasty basil that's in the San Marzano tomatoes, I say nasty because it looks old and wilted. I love basil. Just kind of get that out. We don't want to puree that basil. We just want to puree the tomatoes and the sauce. That's about enough. All I'm going to do, put these on. Make sure you get all the chunks. Give them a few pulses. You know, this will allow the tomato chunks to kind of settle a little bit, and then your blades can get them. So I'm just going to repeat this process until I have my whole can of tomatoes. When I say can, remember this is a 90-ounce can, so it's not just like a 28-ounce can. But so I'm just going to keep repeating this until I have all my tomatoes pureed. I just finished pureeing the last of my tomatoes. Only made a minor mess throughout this process. But we have all of our prep done, and it's time to start cooking. So let's get rolling. What I want to do is get my oil heated up. Right now I've got my burner up on high just to get my pan hot, but it's not going to stay there any length of time at all. So in the pot, I put about 2.5 tablespoons of olive oil, probably closer to 2. So now I'm going to wait for my oil to get hot here real quick, and I can feel it heating up. Next thing that's going to go in are my shallots, and this is 2.5 shallots, finely minced. Let me go ahead and make sure we get everybody into the pool there. So now what I'm going to do is turn my heat down on medium. And I'm also going to add my garlic, because I want the garlic to release its wonderful flavors. Now we're going to let this sweat out for, probably 3 or 4 minutes. And while that's happening, you're probably wondering, why in the heck am I making such a big portion of the simple red sauce? And the answer to that is, we use it in a lot of different dishes. So my goal is to, I'm making some for the next video where you're going to see I'm going to make a no noodle lasagna, but we're also going to freeze some. Another great thing about this simple red sauce is if you're dieting and you're following Weight Watchers or any of the other weight loss programs, this simple red sauce is extremely low in calories. Much more than you'll find in a store-bought sauce. A lot of the store-bought sauces, they add sugar to increase the flavor. I don't do that. I don't like to put sugar in my sauce. Also, you'll see I'm not putting a lot of seasonings. This is a simple red sauce. I give it a base flavor, so that way in the dish where I'm going to use this sauce, if I need a slightly different flavor or something more intense, I can add some additional seasonings at that time. So it looks like I've got another minute or so here on my garlic and my shallots. So when these are ready, we'll move on to the next step. So my onions and my garlic have been going for a couple minutes. I want to go ahead and add my 1 teaspoon of crushed red pepper. Again, if you like things more spicy, increase the amount of red pepper you're putting in. My intent for red pepper is to round out the flavor in my dish, not to make it a spicy sauce. So I'm only going to let that go for just a minute or two because I want to go ahead and let that red pepper start to do its job. And it looks like my garlic and my shallots just need just another few minutes. My garlic and shallots are ready. So now the next step is to add our tomatoes, and I have a whole lot of tomatoes to add here, and as tempted as I am to just dump this in, I know that if I do that, I'm going to make a mess, and then I will be cleaning off the stove and the floor and the side of my refrigerator and every place else I splashed the sauce for the remainder of the evening. You know what? Let's just give it a shot now that I got some in there. Didn't splash too much. So I'll tell my wife and hopefully she'll believe it. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and scrape the remaining tomatoes into my pot here. You hear a little bit of sizzling because, yeah, I got some on the side as well. We won't tell anybody that. So now all I'm going to do is give this a quick stir, and I'm going to bring it up to temperature. I'm going to get it to it's almost boiling, and then I'm going to turn it down to simmer, and I'm going to let this simmer for 30 minutes. There are 2 reasons I want this to simmer for 30 minutes. First, I want some of the moisture to steam off. My goal is if I have to use any tomato paste to thicken this up, I want it to be minimal. The second reason that it's critical that you let this simmer for 30 minutes is canned tomatoes can have a slightly tinny flavor. It takes time to simmer that out. It takes about 30 minutes. So after 30 minutes, it's going to be done. So here in about 20 minutes, after I've got it simmering for about 20 minutes, we'll come back and we're going to add the basil. We're going to add salt and pepper. It has been 20 minutes and my sauce has been simmering away. I forgot something. Oh, great!
What happened? your camera?
Yeah, went kerplunk. Yep, that's right. My GoPro camera came loose, went right into my sauce. Happy day, happy day. The camera was fine, but there was sauce everywhere. And I got so flustered that, you know, as you can see, that I forgot to turn the sound back on during the next segment. And all I did in the next segment, as you can see, I put in a little bit of basil. I added some salt. It needed a little bit more salt, but it was just not a good day in the MASH household, we'll say. So I have my GoPro camera cleaned up and remounted. Hopefully it won't dive back into the sauce, hoping to be a seasoning. Now, my sauce has been going for another 5 minutes, which means we have 5 minutes left before we hit that wonderful 30-minute threshold to get that tinniness, that tinny flavor out of the tomatoes. It's not quite thick enough for me. I want to add some tomato paste. I'm going to give the tomato paste time to work its magic, to do its job, to thicken this sauce, get it to where I want it. I might need to add just a little bit more, but I've got like 3, 4, 5 minutes left here before I'm going to take the sauce off the heat. My sauce has been simmering away for 5 minutes. I did end up adding pretty much the entire tube of tomato paste I had. I'd have probably been better served if I had grabbed one of my small cans of tomato paste. At any rate, my sauce is done. You can see that, you can see the seeds and whatnot in my sauce, and for me, that's okay. I'm a home cook. This sauce is perfect for what I'm going to use it for. Some folks don't want to see the seeds in their sauce, or they want to see something that's a lot, maybe even more smooth, because I did start with canned tomatoes and pureed those. If that's the case, you can use strained tomatoes. You can use passata. You know, as home cooks, we use what we have in our pantry. In my case, I always have the San Marzano tomatoes, and this time I just happened to get a very big can, the 90-ounce can, on sale. So I used what I had. I'm going to get this sauce off the heat so that it can start cooling down. We're going to let it cool for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and talk about how we're going to portion it off and how we're going to preserve it. So my intent with this sauce, we're going to use it in the next episode for a No Noodle Lasagna. Every now and then I like to make more sauce than I need and freeze it. That way I always have it on hand. When I do freeze my sauce, I use a variety of different sizes of containers. That way if I need just a tiny little bit of sauce, I've got that, and on up to, you know, the larger containers of sauce. Now, one thing that is very important is that you let your sauce cool clear to room temperature before you stick it in the freezer. So I'm going to go ahead and get my containers all full. Well, I'm splashing more and more, and I already have a mess to clean up from the GoPro taking a dive into my sauce, as you guys saw. Fun. So what I'm going to do is get my sauce portioned off into the different sizes, clean them up so I don't make a mess, and let these cool down. Now, before I get too crazy and get all of this portioned out, let's take a little taste, see how we did here. You can see with my sauce that you know, there are seeds in it. There's little pieces of the garlic. I'm a home cook. This is perfect.
It's good.
Now, the thing I like about the sauce is it's not over seasoned, and that's the intent. I can now take the sauce, when I thaw it out, I can add oregano, I can add rosemary, I can whatever, I can add more crushed red pepper to really make it spicy. I can do whatever I need to with this sauce for the dish that I'm going to use it in. And the sauce itself, great flavor. The tomatoes, the star. It is, again, it's not over seasoned. The intent is for it to be a simple sauce. So I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of my containers portioned off, because these smaller containers allow the sauce also to cool a little bit quicker, and you can see there's still some steam coming off these. So with that, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+. Most importantly, please, please, please click that subscribe button in YouTube, download and watch videos on that Simply Good Food TV app. Again, I really appreciate you guys watching my videos, and ciao.